Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this quick and easy macrame plant hanger. First thing we're going to need is a wooden ring. We're going to need some scissors and some macrame cord that is cut to about double your arm's length. I always like to do a little longer just in case. So to begin, we're going to start by doing something called a lark's head knot. So to do this, we're going to take one of our macrame cords and we're going to bring the ends together. That's going to have the two ends on the one side and then this loop on the opposite end. From here, we're going to insert the looped end through our wooden hoop and we're going to pull the ends through that loop. This is going to secure it to the wooden ring. We're just going to pull this knot up to the top, and then I like to make sure it's secure by giving it just a little bit of a push up with my fingers just to make sure it is firmly on there. And then we're going to do that 7 more times until we have 8 on our ring. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten all these knots, and now that we have 8 on there, we should have something that looks like this. So from here, I'm going to teach you how to make a square knot. That is going to be the bulk of our design. We're going to go for a kind of triangle look. So to do that, we're going to be working in groups of 4. So we're going to begin with the outside 4 on the left side. And you're going to take your outside strands and kind of pull them out into this loop. One of the loops is going to be in front of the 2 middle strands. And then the other one is going to be the opposite. It's going to go around the back of the 2 middle strands. And then we're going to loop that through the original loop on that side. And we're tying a knot essentially around those 2 middle strands. So we're going to pull that all the way up. And then we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it on the opposite side. So see how there's like a little bump right here? That's how we know that that's the side that we're going to do next, and that's going to keep our knot straight. If we continued tying it the other way, we'd get a curved knot. We want our knots to be flat. So I'm going to put that side over top first, then I'm going to bring the other strand back and around and through, and then pull up to tighten the knot. And see, now we have the bump on the other side. So from there, we're going to continue our square knots across all of our cords. And we're going to be working in groups of 4. So you just go to the next 4 strands and continue to make your square knots. And again, we see that we have this bump on the left side, so I know that's the side I'm going to start on the next time. I only say this because sometimes if you get interrupted and you forget which side, that's an easy way to remember which way you need to go. So we're going to pull that up and yeah, just keep continuing across. So this is what your first row is going to look like. Now, as I said earlier, we kind of want to make a triangle shape. So on our second row, we're actually going to skip the 2 outside strands, and that's going to bring our knots down into a point. So I'm going to skip these 2 on the outside, but I'm still working in groups of 4. So after those 2 are gone, now I'm just going to pull the first 4 strands that I see and continuous square knots across the second row. So as you pull up the knots on the second row, it's going to create this cute little eyelet in between the original square knots, and it really adds to the overall look of the macrame. So we're going to just continue with these square knots all across this next row. And this is what it should look like when you complete the second row. For row 3, we're going to ignore the outside 4 cords. So we'll just get those out of the way because we're again continuing to reduce our square knots so that we can have this turn into a triangle. So get those out of the way. Now we're just making 2 square knots across for row 3. All right, and for this last row, we're just going to take those middle 4 strands and create one more square knot so that we can join all this together into a triangle. And this is what it will look like when we are finished with that first section. We have this upside down triangle, and now for the next part, I want to make a diamond underneath it, but I'm going to use that knot that we just created as my first point. So to make the diamond, we're going to separate our cords in half, and then I'm going to focus on the first set of 4, and I'm going to make my square knot. And now I'm going to go to the 4 on the other side of the middle, and I'm going to make another square knot there. Now from here, there's 2 different ways you could do this. You could make a square knot immediately with the 4 strands directly under those ones that you just made, but I like to use the next 4 over, with the one on the outside being the left side middle cord of your original knot. I like to do this to keep that length of cord that's hanging down from the original triangle level. I just want to make sure that I'm not pulling too tightly, because your knots should be snug, but they shouldn't be so tight that they're pulling too far up. Now I can move towards the middle, and I know what height my knot should be at to be in line with the outside knot. And we're going to use those next 4 cords over to make our last square knot of this row. Now for the outside, we're finally going to pick up those other 2 on the outside and bring the next 2 cords next to it over and continue with our square knots all the way across. And again, make sure you're pulling tight, but not too tight. You want to have your square knots all be level across. All right, and now for the next row, we're going to start bringing it back in. So we are going to ignore the 2 outside ones, and we're going to continue making the square knots across in the middle of the 2 square knots above it in the previous row. And we're going to continue with that pattern, except for this time we're ignoring the 4 cords on the outside to make 2 more square knots on this row. And then 1 final square knot in the middle to complete our diamond. So from here, you're going to want to go get whatever vessel you're trying to fit in this macrame. I'm using a jar that I used to propagate my spider plants, and I'm going to bring the two outside cords on each side around the front just to get a feel of how much space I need to make this fit securely. So I'm going to kind of mark that with my fingers, and then I'm going to make a square knot in that place. Your middle strands are going to be the two outermost cords. And as you can see, this is kind of a floating knot, so you want to just make sure that you're not pulling too tightly on that first go around, because you can always tighten it at the end by doing what I'm doing right now, just kind of tug and shape with your fingers as you go. All right, so from here now, we're going to flip our work over and we're going to make the basket portion of where the jar is going to sit. So of the cords that we have left on the back, we have 3 sets of 4. I'm going to begin in the middle and I'm going to make a square knot about 2 inches down from the end of our diamond. Then I'm going to move to the outermost sets of 4 and make another square knot that is level with the middle, and the same on the opposite side. Now I want this jar to be pretty stable in there, so I'm going to ignore the 2 outer cords and I'm going to make a joining knot between each of these original square knots of that row. And I'm going to keep these kind of loose in case I need to have a little extra room for the jar to fit, or if I want to change it to something bigger, I don't have to make something completely new. So now to complete the basket, we're going to tie a gathering knot. To do that, you're going to take a cord length of about 16 inches. You're going to make this U shape with the one end facing up. And we're going to wrap the remaining cord around that loop. And we're going to do that so that that tail is visible at the top, but the loop is also visible from the bottom. So this is kind of an aesthetic thing. You can decide how big you want the knot to be. I usually like to do like 6 to 7 wraps. And then when I get to the bottom there, you see we have our loop still there. You're going to put the end through the loop and you're going to pull up on the tail to bring it into the knot. That's what's going to tighten it. And you can pull on each of those ends, get it a little tighter, and then from this point, you just are going to snip those ends, but I always make sure that whatever vessel I was going to use actually fits first, because that way you know if you actually have to adjust the knot or not. But ours looks great. I'm so pleased. So now we're just going to turn and trim. So the tail on my gathering knot ended up being pretty long at the bottom, so that looks like a good place for me to just cut the rest of them to, and that's what I'm going to do, and that will finish our plant hanger. And that's it. This is such a quick and easy project. It's super fun. It looks great, makes a wonderful gift, and makes absolutely fantastic decoration around your home. So, thank you all again so much for watching. I hope you give this a try and you have fun while doing it.